probably clicked on this video because you're having trouble finding a rheumatologist. And I hear this a lot. And judging by the number of comments I have on that video where I was talking about how I got a diagnosis with ANA negative systemic lupus, it seems like, and I even know this from a family member because autoimmune disease runs in my family, even people with positive ANAs are having trouble getting a diagnosis. It's ridiculous, but let's talk about how you could find a good rheumatologist in your area. I really wish we were not so censored so that I could just say this the way I blatantly just want to say it, but it is what it is. I have to kind of skirt around this a little bit. You want to look at what the best states in the country for medical care are. That's like the Northeast, New York, New England. There's a couple of different parts of the country that just have much better healthcare ratings and overall outcomes with their healthcare systems and their providers and their medical schools than other parts of the country. So when I'm looking for a doctor, I will not see anyone that went to a medical school in these parts of the country that are not as good for medical care, even if I'm in that state. So let's say I'm in the state of Florida currently, right? I'm going to look for a doctor that went to medical school in New York. I'm not even kidding you. And unless they went to medical school in one of these parts of the country that have notoriously high standards for medical licensing and medical schools and have really high healthcare ratings and overall outcomes, I'm not going to see that doctor. It's an absolute no for me. It's one of my criteria that it's a box that has to be checked with any specialist. Primary care doctor is like, it doesn't matter that much because they're not doing much but treating colds, really. This is only, we're talking about rheumatologists and specialists, really, but especially rheumatologists in our situation, right? So that's the first thing that I do, and I think that this is really critical in my opinion. And this is how I've successfully gotten a diagnosis. Also, this is how I have been able to successfully get the level of treatment that I need. So if your disease is moderate to severe and they're trying to hand you a script for Plaquenil and steroids long term, that's not good. Steroids are bad for your endocrine system, your adrenals, that they can cause bone problem, like long-term steroids for moderate to severe disease activity, just that, and Plaquenil, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If a doctor tries to hand me that crap, I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm moving on. And I've been in that situation, and I was miserable. You could probably see me talking about that in some other videos, but it's something I don't put up with. So the other thing is, this has really helped with finding doctors that are willing to treat aggressively enough when my disease is warranting aggressive treatment. Also, even parts of the state that I'm from in New York, there are certain parts of New York where if a doctor comes out of a medical school in that certain part of New York, they're notoriously not very good, as opposed to like medical schools in the boroughs, like in the city, New York City, are generally good, 90% of the time amazing, right? So just in my experience anyway. So you gotta get familiar with that if you're in a part of the country that doesn't have good medical care. That's a big thing, and I think that's a big problem. I talked about this in some of the other videos where it's an issue, I think, causing people to have much longer wait times to get a diagnosis, because if you're young, and most of us are when we start having symptoms, you don't have access to good doctors. If you're in certain states, it just is what it is. So in any state, you should be able to find somebody, even if you have to travel. I travel 3 hours to my rheumatologist because he went to a medical school out on the West Coast and not in the South. I'm just going to say it how it is. So 3 hours one way. That's why I'm driving all that way. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, I go on, not only do I look at where they did their residency, where they did their medical school, all of that stuff, I also look on Google at their reviews. Now, let's say they have 4.7 stars, but they only have 3 reviews. That's not enough information, first of all. That's 4.7 stars based on 3 people. I want to see a lot of different reviews. And there's usually, even if they have a high amount of stars, there'll be like 1 or 2 people, or hopefully not, but maybe more, that were not as satisfied, and I read those reviews. Because I don't need to read all the ones that are, oh, this doctor is amazing, blah, blah, blah. I already know what they're saying because they're happy with the care, right? I want to see what the people that did not have a good outcome had to say. So this is how I have been kind of figuring out what doctors to see, being that I'm in the South and we don't really have good medical care here. And that's how I've been able to handle this situation. And it is tough, but just based on all the comments from that video, it was so upsetting. It just makes me sick to my stomach even just thinking about it. Of all these people having so much trouble. I mean, if you have a positive ANA and they're saying that on one hand, oh, you have to have a positive ANA to have lupus or it's not lupus, but then when people have a positive ANA, oh, that's not enough to say it's lupus. What? Make it make sense. And then the Duke study showed that 30% of the completely healthy population has a positive ANA. Like, none of this is making sense. Are we really making a diagnosis here based in science? Because it doesn't sound like it to me. So this is just my best advice and how I've had the most success 99% of the time using this system to try to filter through all these different rheumatologists and not have, so much of this nonsense where you see somebody and they string you along and do nothing for you for months and months and months. Now, generally, after I see them the first time, they do labs, and then I go see them again after that, which I don't let them schedule too far out. Like, I'm not going to wait 3 to 6 months to see them again. You're not going to waste my time like that, first of all. You got to take charge of the situation. This is your health. If they don't have a plan or they're not doing anything for me by that second visit after they get any labs and records and whatever that they need to, I'm moving on. I don't have time to waste. This disease causes permanent organ damage. I'm not doing that. I am moving on. And even with this system that I'm talking about, just using to kind of vet these rheumatologists and figure out which one is going to be the right one for you, sometimes I have to go through 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but it is what it is, I'm not going to sit here and be miserable and not live my life and end up with permanent organ damage. I'm not going to do that. Nobody has time for that. We need to live our lives, and we don't have time to sit around and be sick. That's not fair to us. So that's my best advice, and I really hope that this helps you guys. Let me know in the comment section how you've had success with finding doctors and if this was helpful. Thank you for all your likes and subscribes. It really does help me to continue putting content like this out there for someone who might really be needing this information. All right, stay strong, guys.